holding up, but as Neeraj pointed out, the price, the levy price is also something crucial to find out. But we'll keep a track on sugar prices. Meanwhile, let me welcome in our next guest on the show. We've got Martin Newson, who now joins us live from Mumbai. Martin Newson, of course, has taken over as the head of the Global Investment Banking Division of Religare. In fact, Religare has lined up fairly ambitious plans to build a global investment banking franchise. Martin, many thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your new role, and thanks for speaking to ET Now. But take us through your plans now as far as your global investment banking plans are concerned. How do you plan to scale it up?
Well, the first thing we need to do is to build on the strong base that we already have in India. So we want to be more aggressive in the way that we build out distribution in London and in New York for this product. So that would be kind of the first major step that we go through, and basically build on strengthening the acquisition that we made in 2008 when we bought Hitchens Harrison. The second thing we want to.
All right, we'll just try and get Martin back for you on Religare's investment banking plans. But in the meanwhile, what we've also been tracking is L&T's, that was the L&T management on their fundraising. But we've also got Martin Newson back with us. He's, of course, taken over as the new CEO of the Global Investment Banking Division at Religare. Martin, we've got you back on the show. Of course, we were asking you about your strategy, really, because Religare is fairly new compared to the other big boys that you will be competing with. What really is your strategy to succeed going forward?
I think I missed the first part of that question, but if I paraphrase, I guess the question is how we're going to go up against the big boys. Is that correct?
Right, Martin. Go on.
Okay. Well, I think the one thing that one has to bear in mind when one compares our investment banking effort compared to other domestic investment banking efforts is the fact that already in 2008 we made an acquisition in London by buying actually London's oldest stockbroker. And in that sense, the key thing for any company raising money is be able to source capital. So we are going to be putting distribution centers in London and in New York, and I see no reason why our distribution should be inferior to anybody else's.
Right, Martin, take us through at this point in time as you venture into this space, particularly in the context of the India-Europe corridor. What's the sense that you're getting in terms of the potential there is for M&A activities? We have seen that activity, particularly as far as Indian companies is concerned, particularly in the auto ancillary space. But what's the sense that you're getting in terms of the opportunity therein?
Well, I think there are going to be large opportunities there. I think that as if you look at the growth rates that you see in emerging markets, and particularly in India, as these companies grow, they are obviously going to attract a lot of capital. And they're going to want to deploy that capital, and they're going to want to take global market share. So they're going to want to acquire companies, not just in India, but outside of India. And there are quite a few, there are companies today that already have a high percentage of earnings from non-Indian sources, and I think you're going to see more of that going forward.
Right, Martin, keeping with the discussion on M&A activity, you of course been in constant touch with clients and large corporates, but is the confidence really coming back? What is your sense of a recovery? Of course, we've seen a lot of companies go out there and raise big funds, but in terms of acquisition and sale opportunities, what's the sense you're getting? Well,
from conversations not taking place at all, at least conversations are now taking place. And I do think that a lot of people we speak to believe that the worst is over. And that was a required condition for the next phase of things to happen. So I think we've gone through that first phase of fear. We're now in a phase where people are actively looking at their strategies. And I'm actually cautiously optimistic going forward.
Right, Martin, talking about India specifically, what's the level of interest you're seeing for the country? Of course, we have a lot of Indian companies now going out there and acquiring foreign companies, but also in terms of foreign companies looking to invest into the country, what kind of interest are you seeing?
I think it's huge. I think that because the country itself is so big, it means that you hopefully can come up with an idea here and you can expand it. And I think that foreigners would like to invest large pools of capital rather than small pools of capital, and it's easier to do that in a bigger country. So I think I'm very optimistic on India in an absolute basis, but also on a relative basis compared to other countries going forward.
Right, because Martin, just leave us with your thoughts in terms of taking that story forward. Clearly, India, as you said, the perception is that it is a very attractive destination. We've seen fairly strong capital flows, especially on the portfolio side now as into the equity markets. But in terms of specific stories or sectors, perhaps if you could leave us with a sense of what is evincing the maximum amount of interest at this point in time.
Well, I think anything that has to do with an emerging middle class. So you're talking, that ranges from real estate, and I know there's been, in particular, domestic real estate for private consumption as opposed to, say, retail space, where there's been a little bit of overbuilding maybe, and, say, healthcare as well. Those would be two areas that I think there's going to be a lot of interest in.
Right, Martin Newson, we wish you all the very best. Many thanks for joining us. So they're outlining some of the plans that Religare has on the investment banking side, and clearly looking at setting up distribution centers across in Europe as well as in the United States. Religare, well, you can see the stock there on your screens, but let's bring up the next stock, and that's to do with Built. In fact, that's an ET Now exclusive that we're bringing you this afternoon. That Built is all set to unlock value by tapping the equity markets. This is after the restructuring that the group has undertaken. The Netherlands-based holding company Built Graphics is gearing up for an overseas listing. Let's get the details now from ET Now Sandeep Gurmurthy, who caught up with Gautam Thapar for more.